Hello students, we will continue discussing about photoperiodism. In the last video we have talked about the critical day length. That was the last point. I hope you understood it. The definition of critical day length is that the photoperiod which is required for the process of flowering. A short day plant will flower when they are exposed to a critical day length, which is when they are exposed to a day length which is less than the critical value, and a long day plant will flower when they are exposed to a day length which is more than their critical day length. Now once again I would like to remind you what are the meanings of this short day and long day. Short day photoperiod doesn't mean that the day length is shorter than the night period. Likewise, long day photoperiod does not mean that the day length or the duration of the day is less than the night period. Okay, so then what does it mean? Short day photoperiod or a short day in physiology simply means that the day length is shorter than the critical day length. Alright, the day length is shorter than a certain critical value. That is the meaning of a short day. It has nothing to do with the duration, how many hours. Alright, likewise long day also means the day length is more than certain critical value. It has nothing to do with the duration. Now let us see an example here. You have a look at this example. Gentium, which is a short day plant, it has a critical day length of 15.5 hours. So in a cycle of 24 hours, if 15.5 hours is the photoperiod required, then the rest, that means 8.5 hours will be the dark period. Alright, so 15.5 hours is the critical day length, and this is a short day plant. Look at henbane, Hyoscyamus niger. It has a critical day length of 11 hours, 11 by 13. 13 is the critical dark period. Okay, now by looking at these values, 15.5 hours and 11 hours, a layman who doesn't know about these definitions, who doesn't have idea about this photoperiodism, will say that Gentium is probably a long day plant because it is 15.5 hours is the critical day length, and henbane is a short day plant, but it is the opposite. That's why once again remember that a short day or a long day in physiology has nothing to do with the duration, how many hours. Okay, so it simply means that there is a critical value. If the photoperiod is less than the critical value, it will become a short day. If it is more, then it will become a long day. Alright, now the next point is photoperiodic induction or photoperiodic after effect. Now see, those plants which respond to photoperiod, or those plants which require a definite which require photoperiodic stimulus for the process of flowering, they have a requirement of a definite number of photoperiodic cycles in order to induce flowering process. Now what is this photoperiodic cycle? See, in a day we have 24 hours. Out of that 24 hours, certain amount will be day or photoperiod and rest will be night period. So this 24 hours is known, this 24 hours consisting of day and night, or light and the dark period, is known as one cycle. Okay, as for example, for Gentium, 15.5 by 8.5, that is known as one cycle. Okay, for Nicotiana tabacum Maryland Memor variety, it is 12 by 12 hours, that constitute one cycle. Now the plants require a definite number of photoperiodic cycles. It's not that a Gentium plant, this is just a hypothetical example that I am giving to explain. It's not that if a plant receive only one particular cycle according to their requirement, after that they will start producing flowering. No, it's not like this. they have a definite requirement, and this requirement of photoperiodic cycle is different for different species. As for example, Xanthium requires only one photoperiodic cycle, 15.5 hours by 8.5 hours. Okay, now if they receive this required number of or required amount of photoperiod and the dark period, they need only one cycle of this, and after that they may be exposed to any kind of unsuitable photoperiod. Unsuitable photoperiod means a Xanthium plant is a short day plant, so it may, if it is exposed to a long day photoperiod, means suppose 16 hours, 17 hours, 19 hours photoperiod, even then it will produce flowers. Why? Because since it has already received one single photoperiodic cycle, which is its requirement, that effect will remain in the plant. Okay, that stimulus will remain in the plant, and that is sufficient for this particular plant to initiate the process of flowering. So this process is known as photoperiodic after effect or photoperiodic induction. Now soybean, in case of soybean, the critical day length is 14 hours, and soybean also is a short day plant. But look at this, soybean needs 10 cycles of photoperiod in order to produce flowers. Okay, means less than 14 hours or 14 hours by 10 hours of dark period. A soybean plant has to receive at least 10 cycles of that, then only the process of flowering initiation will take place. Did you understand this? So once a plant receive the required amount of dark and the light period, the effect will remain in the plant. After that, it may be exposed to any kind of unsuitable photoperiod. Suppose a long day plant may be exposed to a short day photoperiod, or a short day plant may be exposed to a long day photoperiod. It will not make any difference, right? So flowering will take place. Now, which part of the plant is responsible for reception of this photoperiodic stimulus? We know leaves are there, and the stem, the branches will be there, roots will be there. Now which part of the plant actually receive this stimulus, which ultimately leads to the process of flowering? It is definitely not chlorophyll. Why it is not chlorophyll? Because chlorophyll does not absorb the far red light. Okay, so this process of photoperiodism can be reversed or can be manipulated by exposing the plant to red and far red light, whereas the process of photosynthesis is not affected by the far red light. So definitely it is not chlorophyll, it has to be something else located somewhere. It may be in the leaves or maybe in the stem part. So to confirm this, two groups of scientists conducted experiments, Knott in 1934 and Sailakhyan in 1936. Now this name is I mean it's not a usual one. It is not an English name. Sailakhyan is a Russian physiologist. He is well known for his experiments on photoperiodism and a very famous physiologist. See, the name in Russia here, Russia is pronounced as Sailakhyan. Okay, this is not Kazakhstan. Some of us we may pronounce it as Kazakhstan, but actually in Russia it is known as, this is pronounced as Sailakhyan. Okay, and look at the person, the scientist. Here he is working with his students in the greenhouse in his lab. Okay, so this is MC Sailakhyan, a famous Russian physiologist. Now Sailakhyan's experiment we are going to discuss here. He worked on chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum is a short day plant, remember this, and its critical day length is 15 hours, which means chrysanthemum will flower if it receives a photoperiod of 15 hours or less than that. But if the photoperiod crosses 15 hours, then this plant will not produce flower. Okay, now what he did, chrysanthemum plants were grown under non-inductive cycles, which means they were not exposed to short day photoperiod. Okay, and after they attain a a certain age or certain height, what he did, he decapitated the tip portion of all these saplings. Decapitation means the apical part of the saplings were removed, and all of us know why we do that. If we remove the tip portion or the apical part of any plant, then the lateral branches start forming. It becomes bushy in appearance, is not it? So why it becomes bushy? It's because that lateral branches can develop nicely now. Now he did the same thing. He decapitated the saplings of chrysanthemum which were grown under non-inductive cycle. Remember, non-inductive cycle. Non-inductive cycle means you have not given the required amount of photoperiod to induce the process of flowering, right? Now after decapitation, the lateral branches developed, the leaves were also developed in those saplings. So what he did, he removed all the leaves from the lateral branches except the lowermost few branches. Okay, I repeat, he removed all the leaves from all those lateral branches except few lowermost branches where the leaves were allowed to remain. Alright, then after that he divided his experimental material into 4 different groups, and these 4 different groups of plants were exposed to different types of photoperiod by using certain special kind of enclosures. Okay, now in group A, all the plants were given a long day treatment. What is a long day treatment? For chrysanthemum, a long day treatment is a photoperiod which is more than 15 hours. Remember, the critical day length for chrysanthemum is 15 hours. Okay, so for chrysanthemum, long day means more than 15 hours of photoperiod. Alright, so in group A, the complete plant, the entire plant was given a long day treatment. In group B, the lower branches which contain leaves, they were given short day photoperiod, means they were exposed to a photoperiod which was less than 15 hours, and the upper branches with no leaves were given long day treatment. In group C, the lower branches were given long day photoperiod, whereas the upper branches where the no leaves were present were given short day photoperiod. And in group D, the entire plant was exposed to the short day photoperiod. Now before I tell you that where the flowering will take place, just think it over. Chrysanthemum is a short day plant, and you have already seen in the previous slide that it is the leaf of a plant which received the photoperiodic stimulus in order to initiate the process of flowering. Okay, so from this experiment, if we assume that leaves are the organs of photoperiodic reception, in which category you will find the plants flowering? Think before you see the answer. It will be in B and in D. Now why? If you could not understand, you can again like the last video, you can again comment on the comment box, or you can ask me in the Google Classroom. Okay, so the flowering will take place in the group B and group D, which proves that wherever the leaves were exposed to a short day photoperiod, the plants were able to produce flower, right? So this means leaves are the organ of perception of the photoperiodic stimulus. Now from this experiment, the same scientist Sailakhyan in 1937, he proposed a concept. Why he proposed this concept? It is because, see, the photoperiodic stimulus is received by the leaves, but leaves do not produce flowers. The flowers are produced somewhere else. Where are the flowers produced? They are produced on the tip of the branches, or they are simply produced on the shoot part, is not it, the stem. So there must be a chemical message or a chemical messenger, something like a hormone, which is produced as a result of perception of the photoperiodic stimulus, and from leaves this stimulus migrate or transported to the portion, to the place of the plant where the flowering process is initiated. So Sailakian proposed that there is a hypothetical flowering hormone. Why we say hypothetical? Because till today florizin could not be extracted. No one is able to extract this florizin flowering hormone. That's why we call it a hypothetical flowering hormone. So he proposed that a hormone which is known as florizin is produced as a result of perception of the photoperiodic stimulus, which is then transported to the other parts or the growing tips of the plant where the flowering is initiated. Now he has also provided evidences that something like florizin or the florizin itself is produced. Why? It is because this stimulus can be translocated from one plant to another by grafting experiment. In the next slide we will see some photograph where I will explain that this stimulus can be transported or translocated from one plant to another. Now during this time when Sailakian was proposed, Sailakian put forward his florizin concept, it was also proved that the gibberellic acid, which is a plant growth regulator, can replace long day photoperiodic requirement of long day plants for the process of flowering. Let me explain this. That in non-inductive cycles, the long day photoperiodic requirement in a long day plant can be replaced by treatment with gibberellin, which means a long day plant requires a long day photoperiod for the process of flowering. But instead of providing them or exposing them to long day photoperiod, if you treat them with gibberellic acid, the flowering will take place, which means gibberellins have the ability to initiate the process of flowering in long day plants. The same thing is not true for short day plant. Short day plants do not respond to external application of gibberellin. Right. So Sailakian speculated that florizin, since it could not be extracted, it could not be isolated, he said that the flowering hormone, which is produced as a result of perception of the stimulus in leaves, is a combination of florizin and it's a florizin which is composed of actually gibberellic acids, which are plant growth regulators, and another hypothetical flowering hormone which he named as anthocyanins. Now what happens, how he explained this phenomena, that long day plants, if they do not receive long day photoperiod, the amount of gibberellin produced in the plant is very less. So amount of gibberellin which is present in the plant is not sufficient to initiate the process of flowering. Okay. Now long day plants in non-inductive cycles have enough of anthocyane, but they have very less gibberellin. That is why when you supply an external application of gibberellin to long day plants in non-inductive cycles, the plants will respond to your treatment and they will start the process of flowering. Remember, without exposing them to long day photoperiod. Right. Now short day plant, it's the opposite. They have enough of gibberellins even if they are not exposed to short day photoperiod, but they have less of anthocyanins if you do not expose them to short day photoperiod. That is why when you apply gibberellins to short day plants in non-inductive cycles, they do not respond to your treatment. Alright. Now both these anthocyanins and florizin, they control the process of flowering in long day and short day plants, but unfortunately this is still considered as a hypothetical flowering hormone because it could not be isolated. Now let us see that the previous point that we have discussed, that the flowering stimulus, whether you call it florizin, anthocyanin or by some other name, but it is true that a stimulus is produced in leaves from where the message goes to the portion where the flowers are initiated in a plant. So now look at this, the first plant here. Now this plant, whether it is a long day plant or short day plant, no, transmitted through serial, okay. Now they are talking about Xanthium. Xanthium is a short day plant. So this first plant here, it is an induced plant. Induced means this plant was exposed to the short day photoperiod, 15.5 hours or less than that. Alright. So once it receives one cycle of 15.5 by 8.5, it will start the process of initiation of flowering. Now if this plant is grafted to another plant, which was another Xanthium plant, which was not induced, means which was not exposed to a short day photoperiod, what will happen? After a few days you will find that flowering is initiated even in the plant which was not exposed to short day photoperiod. Right? Why it happened? Because the stimulus which was produced here in the first plant as a result of photoperiodic induction could be transported or transmitted to the plant which was not exposed to short day photoperiod. So this proves that there must be a chemical messenger, a kind of hormone or a kind of chemical which transmitted from the first to the second plant here in the process of grafting. Right. So from the second plant, third one uninduced, this also will start produce flowering. Then if the third one is grafted with the fourth one, the same thing will happen. Right. So this proves that definitely a chemical messenger is produced, but then whether it is fluorescein, whether it is antthacin or it is gibberellin itself, it is not yet confirmed. Okay. Now we'll continue discussing about this. The last part of this will be uploaded not on Wednesday, it will be on Thursday's class. I'll give you some time to go through the materials which is provided today and also the two last videos which I have I have tried to explain the process of photoperiodism. Okay, so next class will be on Thursday 8:30. It doesn't mean that Wednesday will not have class. I will try to answer your questions. There will be no videos, but I'll be online to answer your queries or clear your doubts during the class timing, that is 8:30. Right. So thank you very much. Have a nice day.